Greg Biffle was more than just a racing legend. He was a champion on the track, a devoted husband and father, and a man whose generosity and courage touched countless lives. On a tragic day in December 2025, the racing world and the world at large were shaken when news broke that Greg Biffle, his wife Cristina, and their children Emma and Ryder were among the 7 people who died in a fatal plane crash in Statesville, North Carolina. The shock was immediate, the grief profound, and the anticipation for their final farewell began almost instantly. Before we talk about the funeral, it's important to remember who Greg Biffle was and why his passing left such a huge impact. Born in 1969, Biffle built his career through skill, determination, and a relentless drive for excellence. Over decades, he achieved 56 wins across NASCAR's 3 national series and earned a spot among NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. But statistics alone don't capture the essence of Greg's life. He was known not just for his speed on the track, but for the heart he showed off it. Tributes poured in immediately after the news of the crash. The motorsports community, celebrities, and public figures all shared their sorrow. RFK Racing called him forever our teammate, reflecting on the deep bond Greg had with his colleagues. Governor Josh Stein and Senator Tom Tillis highlighted his humanitarian efforts, especially his work helping Western North Carolina recover after Hurricane Helene in 2024. These weren't small gestures. Greg had used his own helicopter to help deliver supplies and rescue people, showing that his bravery wasn't limited to the racetrack, it extended to his community. And the tributes didn't stop there. Richard Petty and the Petty family expressed their heartbreak, emphasizing that Greg's courage and generosity were as legendary as his racing skills. Jeff Gordon, a longtime rival and friend, spoke about the inspiration Greg provided, both as a driver and as a human being. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Clint Bowyer, and countless others shared messages of sorrow and admiration. Even beyond the racing world, celebrities, public figures, and fans reflected on how much Greg's life had touched them. The number of tributes highlighted the far-reaching impact of his life. As these messages poured in, people naturally began asking, what would the funeral be like? Who would attend? How would the world honor Greg Biffle and his family? There was immediate speculation that some of the world's biggest names, racing legends, political figures, and celebrities might attend. Fans imagined an unprecedented gathering, a momentous ceremony befitting a man of Greg's stature. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how this story would unfold. Greg Biffle's life was defined by precision, courage, and thoughtful decisions. On the racetrack, he made split-second moves that could determine the outcome of a race. Off the track, he approached life with the same focus. Whether it was helping rebuild communities, mentoring young drivers, or simply being there for friends and family. Every tribute emphasized not just his accomplishments, but his character, his generosity, his humor, and his humility. The racing world responded in unison. Kyle Petty, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Eric Jones, Chase Briscoe, and many others shared memories of Greg as a teammate, a friend, and a mentor. Social media was flooded with personal stories, photos, and messages celebrating Greg and his family. From NASCAR Hall of Fame officials to local charities, everyone spoke of the void left behind by their loss. Doug Yates and Lee Diffie highlighted Greg's courage and humanitarian work, reminding the world that his influence extended far beyond racing. Every tribute, every message, and every public expression of grief built up anticipation for the funeral. Fans imagined a gathering that would bring together the entire racing community, along with celebrities and political figures who admired Greg. It was expected to be an extraordinary event, one that would reflect both his achievements and his character. Yet, even amid this anticipation, details were scarce. There were rumors about private ceremonies, plans for intimate gatherings, and speculation about public memorials. But nothing was confirmed. The suspense only grew. Greg Biffle's life had always balanced public performance with private integrity. He was a competitor, a leader, and a humanitarian. but he valued his family above all else. His wife Cristina and their children Emma and Ryder were central to his life. The thought of a public funeral raised questions about privacy, respect, and the family's wishes. Fans wanted to honor him, but there was also an awareness that grief is deeply personal. The tension between public expectation and private mourning added to the suspense. Even as the world speculated about the funeral, the tributes continued. Jeff Gordon described Greg as inspiring on and off the track. Kyle Busch highlighted his courage and generosity. Mario Andretti and other racing legends reflected on the loss of not only a champion driver, but an extraordinary human being. The outpouring of grief created a shared moment of reflection, uniting fans and colleagues across generations and continents. Each message, each story, added weight to the anticipation of a funeral that could be historic in scale. Greg's achievements alone could have defined him, but it was his character that made the world mourn so deeply. From racing victories to humanitarian efforts, every facet of his life showcased courage, leadership, and compassion. He had faced challenges with determination, celebrated successes with humility, and made a lasting impact on everyone he met. The thought of a final farewell, attended by the world's biggest celebrities and racing legends, created a suspenseful narrative that rivaled any race he had ever driven. And yet, despite all the tributes, all the speculation, and all the anticipation, the truth is still unfolding. Fans continue to wait for confirmation, wondering when and where the funeral will take place, and how the world will gather to honor Greg Biffle and his family. Will it be a private ceremony? Will there be a public memorial later? These questions remain unanswered, adding a quiet tension to a story that is already tragic. The racing community, fans, and public figures continue to honor Greg's memory in the meantime. Stories of his generosity, bravery, and kindness circulate endlessly. The legacy he left behind through his racing career, his humanitarian work, and the love he showed his family is celebrated daily. Even without a confirmed funeral, the world remembers Greg Biffle as more than a NASCAR champion. He is remembered as a man who lived with courage, humility, and heart. And after all the anticipation, the speculation, and the planning, the reality remains. As of now, there are no confirmed funeral arrangements for Greg Biffle and his family. No date has been announced. No location is known. The world continues to wait, reflecting on a life that inspired so many and grieving the loss of a man whose presence was felt far beyond the racetrack. Until the day comes when the world can properly say goodbye, the story of Greg Biffle and the love and admiration of fans, colleagues, and friends remain suspended in a mixture of grief and anticipation. His legacy is already secure, not in a ceremony, but in the countless lives he touched and the inspiration he provided, both on and off the track. How do you feel about the tragic loss of Greg Biffle and his family? Were you inspired by his courage and generosity off the track? What do you think a proper tribute should look like when the world finally gets to honor them? Share your thoughts below.